Okay, today is 23 May 2001. We're at the Lexington Avenue Armory in Brooklyn, and in Manhattan. And we're interviewing Mr. Murray M. Benson, and the interviewer is Wayne Clark. Mr. Benson, tell us whereabouts you were born and raised.
I was born, raised here in New York City, spent almost my entire life here in the city, except a few, military service, a few jobs out of town. But basically, I'm a rare animal, a native-born New Yorker.
Mm-hmm. And what was your father and mother's name?
Their name was same. They came here as children many years ago. At the turn of the century, across those families, the names changed a million times. So, we just go by the name Benson.
Okay. Any brothers or sisters?
I have two younger brothers. One is 5 years younger than me. The other one is 12 years younger than me. And they also, one is down in Texas. The other one is here in New York.
Okay. And whereabouts did you go to school?
I went to school here in New York, and I went to City College here in New York, and then I did my graduate work at NYU. And even the Army was very local. They sent me to ASTP with a language program when I went to Fordham University in the Bronx. So my entire education is right here in New York City.
Now, what year did you graduate from high school?
I got out of high school in 1938.
Okay. And so what were you doing when Pearl Harbor?
Pearl Harbor came, I was already in college, my time in college. And of course I interrupted all our studies, but I already had finished I've been halfway through college by then.
Okay, did you like kind of drop out and?
Yeah, I took a year off in 1940. Mainly it was financial. City College at the time, the tuition was completely free. So the important thing to get your basic living costs. Well, this was the heart of the Depression. Depression wasn't over until the war began. So I took a year off, and I had a semi-military experience. I went in 1940. I signed up with the Civilian Conservation Corps, CCC, and I went out about as far away from New York as you could possibly go. I wound up in the Elliptic Peninsula in the state of Washington, where we saw conservation work. It was a very interesting experience. But it helped, it was paramilitary, and in a sense it helped ease the way into the Army later. It wasn't a totally strange experience coming into basic training.
And where and when did you go to basic training?
My basic training was at a satellite camp at Fort Monmouth, New Jersey. It was at Seagirt, Camp Edison, Seagirt, New Jersey. It was part of the Signal Corps. So we had about 2 months of basic training there, and then we went on to further training at the main post at Fort Monmouth, New Jersey.
And from there you went?
There, I went to the ASTP, Army Specialized Training Program. I was in the language program, and I went to Fordham University for about 6 or 7 months. The whole program was shut down.
Okay, so the whole program took place at the college?
Yeah, it took place at Fordham University.
Okay. And where did you go from there?
From there, I went on to a very special school, to Camp Ritchie, Maryland, which was the Military Intelligence Training Center. And I guess my German was good enough, so they selected me for that. And also I had almost completed my undergraduate work in psychology. So I was trained as a prisoner of war interrogator. Very interesting experience.
Now, how long was that school?
That ran about 3 or 4 months. And then we went overseas.
Now, at that point, what rank were you?
I was T-4, technician 5th grade, equivalent of corporal at the time.
Okay.
They were very chary about giving out promotions in those days.
And you went overseas on a troop ship?
I went over on a troop ship, went to England, went to replacement depot outside of Birmingham, and with all the usual runaround, I eventually wound up at our main headquarters outside of Paris, where the interrogator headquarters was.
So basically you went right from England to Paris. Okay, and tell us about what your daily routine was like. What did you do there?
Well, when the Battle of the Bulge broke in December 16th of 44, I was still there, and just waiting for assignment. I was assigned I went up to the 4th Cavalry Group, which was a reinforced cavalry unit from the upper Midwest, and they were in the middle of the Battle of the Bulge. And I came up there as a replacement, as an interrogator, and the situation was pretty chaotic. There weren't too many prisoners to interrogate, but I did work along with the intelligence setup there.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, one of the problems was they weren't, like most of these line units, they weren't really aware of the value of what we were doing. So even as a non-com, I had my little hassles with them. They wanted me to do their KP, which was a little unusual. When I asked where are the prisoners, of course it was chaotic. They said, go out and get your own. So what am I, business myself over here?
Now, what type of prisoners did you interrogate? Officers or enlisted?
No, there were very few. We had a few enlisted men. The situation was very chaotic. The Germans were on the run. At this point, the battle had been more or less compressed. So the only prisoners I saw were the downbeaten ones that didn't have very much information to give anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we had a few oddballs. I had a couple of young sailors who were told, German sailors, prisoners, say, what are you doing up here? We're here to man the boats. I said, what boats? The boats to evacuate the German troops back across the various rivers, the Rohr River and the Rhine River. So I passed on that information. It wasn't that critical at the time because they were on the run anyway, so it didn't make any difference. But it was an interesting experience.
And what else did you do besides?
Well, we reached the Rhineland Bridge, and we did see some combat on the other side. But that very same morning, I got my orders to report back to Paris. And I went back there, had about a 10-day rest after all this running around the combat zone. And then there was a completely new type of assignment. The war was almost over. This was the end of March, beginning of April of 45. And the interrogator teams were no longer really required to work with prisoners. So they did something very imaginative. They teamed us up with counterintelligence people who were mostly young lawyers, investigators, some ex-cops, some newspapermen, but basically involved in the denazification program. And we wound up in the city of Cologne, rounding up all the political prisoners we could get, people who were in what we call an automatic arrest category. They were members of the Nazi Party and been holding various civilian offices. We got those guys, interrogated them, found out what they'd done. Gestapo agents when we could reach them, SS men. And the training we had was very valuable, understanding what was going on with the German culture. And it was a very dynamic situation. As a matter of fact, I wound up doing a study, writing a paper on this much later in my graduate work, on the relationship between the Nazi Party and the German civilian administration. And it was very interesting for us to see what these people thought. And in a way, it was kind of parallels what happens over here. If you ask somebody, were you a Nazi? They said no. That meant they were not a member of the Nazi Party. But their culture and their theories may have been very much, sympathetic. It's the same thing I mentioned to somebody today. It's the same thing as relationship between democratic with a small d over here and democratic with a capital D. Same difference. So we did get some experience about that. We worked very hard tracing these people down, finding out what they thought, making some kind of study, preparing for the Nuremberg trials also. The interesting thing is we had mostly no small fish. The big ones wound up in Nuremberg. The small ones eventually were released, and the Cold War was already on its way by about 1945.
Now, did you actually have to go out and make some of these arrests?
Oh, sure, of course. We were acting acting as policemen in a sense, tracing down where these people are, relying on informants, relying on all kinds of information. Oh, so-and-so is back, he was a big Nazi, where is he located, so-and-so. And the interesting thing was that I'd written about, the Germans had no reluctance to denounce each other, to us. They said, oh, so-and-so is a big Nazi, why don't you arrest him? Well, we found out really what was going on, that the so-called big Nazi in a ruined city had a problem that the other person wanted. So, these are stories that nobody really hears about.
Any kind of resistance from any of these people?
No.
They all went willingly.
They were glad to see us. They would much rather have us than the Russians. And as a matter of fact, down in the southwestern part of Germany, adjacent to Alsace-Lorraine, the French were using African troops, and the Germans were those were really out of joint on that. They didn't care for French at all.
Now, how many were involved in your company doing this?
We had a combination of several teams in the city of Cologne to begin with. There were 5 of us on the interrogator team, and the rest were counterintelligence groups. We had 19 people altogether. And Cologne at the time, of course, it was a wreck, it was a ruin. But people were coming back, and it was a dynamic situation demographically. Refugees all over the place, evacuees who were coming back, ruined city, people trying to put it back together again. So we had to work with whatever we could in the way of informants, information, stool pigeons, if you will. We have all that.
Sounds pretty exciting.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Now, were you involved with the arrests of any Americans or
No.
anything to do with the black market?
No, there was no real black market at that point. The black market was back in, a lot of it was back in France and Belgium. As a matter of fact, there was an active black market because we had a ration, PX ration, of a carton of cigarettes a week, and it cost us the equivalent of 50 cents. But on the black market in Paris, you could get the equivalent of $20 for that carton of cigarettes. So, of course, it was an active black market on that. Outside of that, well, of course, the Germans were involved in their own black market, and we had nothing to do with that. There was some involvement about currency transactions. We were getting paid in occupation marks, and there was a lot of hacky-packy sending it back and converting it back into dollars over here. And the Army put a stop to it pretty quick. But outside of that, pretty straightforward kind of military government administration.
Now, did you get to participate in any of the Nuremberg investigations?
No, I got home before then. I left Germany in December of 45, traveled much later.
So what was it like over there when the war ended for you?
Well, the country was pretty much in a state of ruin, and we worked closely with military government trying to put together some kind of civil administration. The first thing to do was to locate technicians, people who could turn on the waterworks again, get the sewers going, get the water flow going, begin to clean up some of these buildings. And we didn't live off the civilian economy, of course. We had our own quarters, our own rations, but we saw it was gradually going to be built up again. There were a lot of, one of the big problems was a lot of displaced persons there. People came mostly from what is now, Eastern Europe. And a lot of them didn't want to go back. They knew what they were going to be up against with the Russians. A lot of Poles didn't want to go back. The Russian prisoners didn't want to go back. The interesting thing was in the rural areas, these men, basically they've been prisoners of war, working on the German farms, had better relationships with the German farmers than they would have had going back. They were very reluctant to go back. And of course we had people coming out of concentration camps, but they were a separate sort of situation. Eventually, a lot of them drifted down through Austria, Italy, got to Israel eventually.
Okay. So when was it you came back to the States?
I came back, I was discharged in January '46.
Okay. All right. When you came back to the States, whereabouts were you discharged from?
I was discharged from, around this area, New Jersey, Campbell, New Jersey.
Uh-huh.
That was the basic discharge point, almost with a walking distance in New York City, so it's no problem transportation.
And what did you do once you were discharged?
I got back into college. It took me about 6 or 8 months to finish the credits. I got my degree, and then I spent a year looking for a job. A lot of men coming back, and the situation is not the way it is now.
Did you get any kind of employment compensation or unemployment
Yeah,
insurance?
we had, right at the end of the war, there was something called the 52-20 Club. If you were a veteran, you got $20 a week for 52 weeks. That was your unemployment insurance. So that's what we call the 52-20 Club. And then, of course, most of us got jobs afterwards.
Uh-huh.
Went on doing what we had to do.
And then you got married at some point?
No, I haven't been
No. Okay. Once you completed your schooling and after that year that you were unemployed, then what happened?
Well, I wound up working in fundraising, charitable organizations like the Federation of Jewish Philanthropies and our Jewish Appeal, and eventually with the March of Dimes. And I wound up as a field representative in upstate New York for the United Jewish Appeal, organizing campaigns in all the small communities all the way out to the Buffalo. It was interesting.
Uh-huh.
Of course, there was a lot of pro-Israel sentiment at the time. This was late 40s, early 50s, so a lot of cooperation. It was interesting.
Okay, and that's basically what you...
Well, I had another career in market research
Uh-huh.
for many years, and eventually I did wind up in Wall Street. I retired as a commodity futures broker.
Oh, that sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah, it was exciting. It was great. Of course, it was chancy,
Uh-huh.
but I kept telling people this is not for amateurs. These are not mutual funds. You've got to know exactly what you're doing.
Have you, over the years, kept in touch with any of the men you served with?
No, we had a small reunion a few years later, but they all disappeared. They all vanished. And the few friends I had before the war, a few of them I've kept in touch with, but we all scattered. Everybody's gone because a number of them no longer with us.
Uh-huh.
We're all out of the 16 million men in World War II. Only 4 million of us left.
Yeah.
I'm going at the rate of 1,000 a day.
Do you belong to any veterans organizations?
No, not at all.
Okay. Anything that stands out in your mind? Anything unusual or exciting
Yes.
during that time?
As a New York resident, I think this would be relevant. The country was not really unified at the beginning of the war. Now, of course, it's homogenized. We have television, we have the media. But there was a great deal of resentment or antipathy to New York. We kept hearing, well, you New Yorkers, you're not really Americans, in a sense. And there were some unpleasant incidents. I don't know if you'll have to cut the tape on this.
No, we don't.
When I was with the 4th Cavalry Unit,
Mm-hmm.
I was an outsider. I was a New Yorker, and this was in the middle of the battle. I didn't see any action myself. I was back there in the headquarters company. But these were men who were brought up in a tradition, the Lindbergh tradition, the isolationist American tradition. We shouldn't be in the war. And we're just sitting and talking. They said to me, "It's all the fault of Roosevelt and you New Yorkers that we're in the war." It was very nice to hear. And when we needed transportation, constantly moving almost every other day as a local unit, I had to scrabble around for transportation for when I stopped myself in equipment. Nobody took care of me. They would have been, they had nothing against me personally, just that I was a New Yorker. And I was an outsider.
Now, these guys were mostly from the Midwest or the West Coast?
Yeah, the upper Midwest. Minnesota, Wisconsin, Dakotas, that whole area.
Uh-huh.
And a sister organization to Custer's 7th Cavalry. I said, I told him, you're proud of that, get lost.
Okay.
And then of course they really didn't know how to use personnel like myself. As a matter of fact, in the middle of the Rhine plain, we were going across and we moved almost every day. And at 3 o'clock in the morning, they came to wake me up, come over to the command post. Somebody had found an obsolete German military telephone directory. The Germans were down by then. They were just chasing me. I should get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and translate the telephone directory. So we had that sort of thing. But on the other hand, the rest of it was very good. We tried to do something worthwhile in Germany. But the interesting thing is that towards the latter summer of fall, we did have some contact with some Russian officers who were there for liaison, trying to get their own people to go back. And somehow I noticed they were getting very cold. They didn't talk to us. Of course, it's the opening gun of the Cold War.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know what it was, but some months later, as the word gotten down, what we're trying to do with the Americans.
Oh. That's interesting. Anything else that stands out in your mind that maybe we didn't touch on?
Well, not really. I think that about covers it. I mean, we have all these oddball experiences. Everybody has war stories.
Mm-hmm.
One of the interesting things was that the training here in this country, as far as intelligence personnel goes, was extremely impressive. Very imaginative, very thorough.
Uh-huh.
And one of the things the commanding general, a post down there in Camp Richard, said, one of the reasons we got caught short of Pearl Harbor was because the Japanese knew it was the Sunday morning after payday, and knew everybody was going to be. So we're going to change your way of thinking. Getting off a 7-day week, we're going out to an 8-day week, just to shake up your thinking.
Uh-huh.
That was a magical thing. And then the scenarios in the interrogation training were very imaginative. We had simulated prisoners, people who were native Germans, of course, in German uniform, and with a prepared story that we had to extract from them, and it got tougher and tougher as we went along further in training. It was excellent training. It was very impressive. We thought that not all the people who were running the war department are morons. They knew pretty well what they were doing.
Mm-hmm. Did you get involved with any training with cryptography or?
No, we did have some training in photo interpretation, but that was kind of an auxiliary course. And of course it was very tricky to set up strange things for us to try to interpret.
Uh-huh.
It was a very unusual kind of experience. So, but for example, it looked like there was an airplane stranded in the middle of the backyard of a house. You could see the white wings, the fuselage. Everybody thought it was an airplane. No, it wasn't an airplane. It was the housewife who put out her linen to dry in the sun. So it was tricky, sort of thing. But somebody was using imagination in setting up the training program. It was excellent. And the language program here, of course, the main program later on was in Monterey, California, but this ASTP program was very imaginative too. Very, very good. Conversational most of the time. And we had to, of course, get to know the language.
Mm-hmm. Did you find it difficult or?
Well, German is not an easy language.
Uh-huh.
Mark Twain said whenever he reads German, he has to go to the end of the sentence first to find the verb to see what's going on. So that's what you get used to. It's like anything.
Uh-huh.
And being in Germany for almost a year, of course, I had plenty of practice. But the interesting thing was the commanding officer of my team was a fine gentleman. He was a Mormon from Salt Lake City. And he relied on the rest of us to do most of the spade work, the field work. He was taking care of the administration. Interesting combination.
Mm-hmm.
He was a man from Utah with German speakers all from New York City. But we got along fine.
Mm-hmm.
It was great.
Now coming back to the States, what kind of reception did you get? I mean,
Well,
The
of
war
course,
was over at that point?
it was, well, all the celebration, you know, we weren't unique because there's so many men coming back.
Uh-huh.
And we had our parties and everybody was happy to see us. And I was fortunate in the sense that none of my friends were casualties, just one had an injury. But outside, all of us were back. But eventually they just drifted off, you know, the war was over and we have to get on with our lives. And we didn't really see ourselves as heroes. We're just glad to get out.
Mm-hmm.
So, today, now everybody looks back, this was a great generation. We didn't have much choice in the matter. We didn't ask for it, it came to us.
Now, looking back, you think the whole experience was worthwhile?
Well, like we all said, I wouldn't want to repeat it, but I wouldn't want to give it up either.
Uh-huh.
We learned a lot. And as a matter of fact, now when the fleet is in, the fleet was in a couple of years ago, I was making rounds of the bars with a couple of friends of mine who had been in the Navy in World War II. I would talk to these sailors, young sailors, no current.
Mm-hmm.
And we weren't that thorough, that completely aware that our generation, they look up to us. And in the sense, if you served in the military, or Navy, whatever it was, there's a fraternity in this brotherhood, because we had a shared experience. We went through all the baloney of, you know, the basic training and the nonsense and the discipline and all that. But a certain amount of that discipline is internalized. And there is a camaraderie. I don't know how I feel if I met any German veterans from that period, but I did meet some Frenchmen, and we shared some experiences.
Mm-hmm.
They've been in the underground some, but there was also that relationship. And the younger generation is not in on it. We're an exclusive fraternity, so to speak.
Okay, anything else you'd like to add?
Will there be a published report on this of some kind? Any kind of data?
This will go into our archives, and it'll be open to anybody doing research on World War II. Any family members looking to find out about relatives. But
Well, I mean, I don't think that there'll be any problem locating me. My whole family knows where I am. My friends know where I am. But the interesting thing is the relationship with the rest of the country. That was highly significant to us. Where the hillbillies and the Southerners looked, well, they didn't like New Yorkers, and we saw there was a certain amount of political animosity too. That these men, who a lot of them had been in the war, in the army before the peacetime, and they were not nice guys. These non-coms, the Southerners, the hillbillies had, Arkansas and so on. They had their own culture, and there was a meanness in it. And we saw it later with the treatment of black troops later. Blacks were segregated. We hardly ever saw them. We were basically as quartermaster troops, workforce, got very little to do with them because they were kept away from us. And that was the tradition of the Southern culture, of course, now and so on. Fortunately. So we had that experience of seeing that as New Yorkers, we're different. We're not Americans, we're New Yorkers. But, we have to straighten out a little bit on that. And that, of course, is important to us as New Yorkers. Now, of course, everybody wants to come here. And the Times, as a matter of fact, had footnote in the article that 1 out of 15 Americans now lives in the New York area. So more New Yorkers than any other kind of American. So that's us.
okay, well, I guess this is a good point to end the interview, and I thank you very much.
My pleasure.